So recently, I've been playing Night in the Woods, which you can get off of Steam, and you should definitely do, because I think this is going to be the big indie game story of 2017. Much like Undertale was in 2015. The game presents itself to be a exploration-based platformer, but really the platformer aspect of the gameplay is more of an excuse to get the main character around the town and interact with NPCs, and that's really all the game. 80% interaction with NPC and slice of life, and the remaining 70% is intrigue, potentially of the supernatural persuasion.
Well, the game has been has been advertised as being more of a narrative game rather than a typical video game.
It is an extremely character-driven experience, and it is very well written. The game stars May Borowski, a college dropout that has dropped out of college for reasons only known to her, returning to her hometown of Possum Springs, to her parents and to her friends, only to discover that her friends have grown up without her. I don't want to say much about it, because it's really important to experience this game for oneself, because again, it's a character-driven story, mostly slice of life, that gets very, very real, very, very soon.
I mean, I guess one of the things that I actually do admire about the game from the research that I've done is I do like the fact that it is trying to portray these themes while keeping such a, I guess, childlike style in a sense. I don't know, I appreciate a lot of games that are able to do that.
I should say that in spite of the very cute stylistic choice of anthropomorphic animals, it's still a game that features period jokes.
I think it's because it's a...
See, mature themes with cute animals. It works. It happens.
I think the whole concept. I think the concept with the cute animals, being the representation of the style for the game, is supposed to be reminiscent of how life seems so bright from a physical and looking standpoint, if you're just looking at it.
Get it? It's symbolism.
Well, actually, aside from what you just said about this game without actually never having played it, Devar,
I'm just taking a walk, yes, just from looking at it.
I have to say that the stylistic choice doesn't really add anything particularly strong to what is the core narrative and themes of the game, which is really about anxiety and existential dread. The intrigue that I mentioned before about this game serves as a metaphor for that anxiety and existential dread, which leaves the stylistic choice, the aesthetics, not having much to do with the theme itself. It is a very alluring and well-crafted and pretty cute aesthetic, don't get me wrong, but it can also be distracting in the sense that May Borowski appears to us as an anthropomorphic cat.
Yes.
And then you see a regular stray cat running around in the streets of Possum Springs. That is the kind of element that's incredibly distracting, because it emphasizes that she is an anthropomorphic cat without any real reason from a thematic or narrative standpoint. Don't get me wrong, you are free to do whatever style you want for your game or story or whatever it is you want to make, but the style itself should not distract you from the story.
Well, this is also coming from two people that haven't played it.
Yes, but I'm taking a wild guess that about stuff here.
Well, okay, I'm actually being unfair. This is not really a criticism so much as it is an observation. And really, once you get a nitpick, a pointless nitpick. In fact, once you get immersed in the game and the story, the beautiful environment and the atmosphere and the ambient music and the characters, especially the characters, that nitpick really will not matter in the slightest. In fact, the only real criticism I have for this game is the obligatory Guitar Hero sessions. Those are terrible and I hate them.
Of course. Okay, I was actually going to ask a question if them being anthropomorphic animals actually related to their personalities in any way.
It might, but it is so subtle that it might just be a coincidence. I mean, May Borowski is...
Looks like how cats like to explore.
Yeah, in fact, most of the game I spend it atop the power lines, jumping very dangerously from a roof to another. That's very cat-like. But nothing else about her is very cat-like. I mean, her best friend is a fox. I thought it was a jackal at first, by the name of Greg.
Right.
And he's very mischievous. Apparently he likes to commit crimes, as he called them. Mostly just random acts of vandalism.
I guess that's like what jackals do?
And then there is his boyfriend, Angus, which is a bear. And he's cuddly, I guess. Really, these characters have such complex and realistic personalities. I feel that if you associate them with the animal that's supposed to represent them, you undermine the fact that they have such complex and realistic personalities to begin with.
But I was more curious whether basically, rather than just, let's see, what's the word I'm looking for? Trying to keep order, so to speak, with the tropes of personalities. I did wonder whether they just, built upon them and made them more deeper and complex by that route.
Now, like I said, there are no tropes here, because the characters feel very real. But anyway, so before I proceed in my assertion of the game, and how it relates to my own very personal life experiences, because, spoiler alert, this game gets very real for me. I actually want to talk about another game that came about 2 years prior to this. Was it 2015?
I believe it was, it was like early 2015, I believe.
Okay, so...
I could be wrong.
So I brought Shannon into this podcast because she is the only one among us who actually had the patience, the money, and apparently the infatuation to play the entirety of Life is Strange. And I feel like... What?
I would also like to add the gall as well.
The gall to play Life is Strange. But to be fair, Life is Strange is meant to pander. I mean to cater. I mean to be thrust upon the general direction of Shannon's demographic.
Can I talk? All right. Are you good?
I was going to say you are closer to the ideal demographic of the game that the game was intended for. So, yes, please tell us about your experience with Life is Strange. Go.
Okay, alright. So, I don't even love this game, and you seem to act like I do. I don't. I think it's fine. I don't think it's spectacularly amazing. I mean, I think there's a lot of very good elements of the game, but as me and you were discussing prior, before the Skype call, the writing does fail in a lot of departments. However, I feel like when the writing is good, it's great. And when it's not, it's very, very obvious. It's very strange because I like a lot of the characters, and I like the way they write a lot of the characters, which is strange. If you get it, because this life is strange. This game is strange. It's, I don't know, I have a lot of mixed feelings towards this game, just because I do genuinely like how they write Max, I like how they write Kate. My favorite character is David Madsen, honestly, because I think they write him so spectacularly well. I really like the actor who voices him. And it's weird because the voice acting in the game is also very impressive to me, even with some of the characters that are very poorly written or written as stereotypes, like Victoria, like Nathan. But even Nathan has like points where I feel a lot of genuine emotion coming out of his character. And I don't know, I think games that actually make me sympathize with the characters, I have to appreciate. And with a game that does have a lot of writing downfalls, like Life is Strange, I'm just very impressed with it. Also, I'm just going to get this out of the way. Yes, the animation is very niche in a sense. I have very mixed feelings towards the animation as well.
very episodic game format.
It's I haven't even played Night in the Woods, but I appreciate their stylistic choices more than I like Life is Strange's stylistic choices.
Because Life is Strange doesn't really have a stylistic choice. It looks like a Telltale game.
No, Telltale is stylized.
I hate Telltale style, honestly.
I love Telltale style. I hate
Telltale games with every fiber of my being.
Listen,
Telltale's is only good when they did Sam & Max games.
I actually like the Walking Dead games. Yeah, you heard me. I really didn't want to fight with Adriana tonight, but I guess I have to. But continuing with Life is Strange, I don't like the style that much. However, I feel like a lot of the atmosphere that the game brings off, especially with its amazing soundtrack, that indie girl thinks she can plays guitar soundtrack. I actually really like it, and I think it fits.
Are you sure it's not the bed?
I really do. I like the style of the game. I like the backgrounds. I really like the soundtrack. I feel like it's not as quote-unquote deep, because I haven't played Night in the Woods, so I don't really want to make any assumptions of a game that I barely know anything about. I'm just taking your word for it. I wouldn't say it's as quote-unquote deep as Night in the Woods. It doesn't really have any overarching themes. It's more so you just following the lives of these characters and watching everything that happens around them.
The only deep thing about Life is Strange is old people who think they know what young people sound like.
You couldn't be more right.
Actually, I was going to bring that up because it's my major gripe with the writing in that game.
A lot of the dialogue is very...
Okay, so...
The dialogue is very cringy.
I will say this, though. There is one small detail I really like about Life is Strange. It's a very, very small detail that not a lot of people know of, but anytime you turn back time, you can actually hear the echoes of dialogue that you are supposed to hear later on in the game or in the past, kind of quietly talking in your ear.
We were talking about writing, specifically bad writing, specifically how not to write teenage characters, specifically what happens when adult writers think teenagers actually sound like, and they get them completely wrong, because they thought, hey, Daria was popular at some point, and we shall never move on from that, so let's get all those characters we saw in Daria, repackage them, and create a whole new generation worth of cliches as to how to write teenager characters in our stories. And that's exactly what happens with Life is Strange. Now, I have not played, quote-unquote, Life is Strange, but I've seen several episodes worth of gameplay footage enough to actually understand how the writing works in this series and how the characters are. To me, they're all very much bland and generic cliches, or a collection of bland and generic cliches compiled into human beings. Or, pixelated digital 3D rendition video gamey versions of real people. That was a bit convoluted, but you get the idea. The writing is not good, and you cannot get invested. I cannot get invested in the characters, not because the game is not for my ideal demographic, I don't think Night in the Woods is, also, but because the writing is so phony, if you allow me to use the term phony, so phony that the characters are not real to me, and because of that I cannot get invested in the story and what they're going through, and the whole ordeal falls flat.
I can understand that. If the characters just feel like caricatures of what people assume characters or people would be like in real life, then
if they were caricatures, at least they would be funny, like in Beavis and Butthead in their period of time, not so much right now. Life is Strange is every Sundance Film Festival entry that talks about being young and being scared and anxious about the uncertainty of the future, this big unknown, on the verge of adulthood, how shall we deal with our future, que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. Every film festival, independent film. I swear to you, just
to
goes like
mention
this.
The dialogue really quick.
Goes like this.
Go ahead, Shannon.
I think the difference between Daria and Life is Strange is that, and I'm not saying Daria is realistic, but that's the point. It's almost satire of teenage culture, and we know it's satire of teenage culture.
And a lot of the
like dialogue
is satire of how teenage culture is perceived by adults or by the whatever corporate entity that wants to make a profit and exploit teenage culture by making something that misrepresent them. That's what Daria really was all about in terms of the satire.
And that's why that's why a lot of the dialogue is over the top, and you could argue that it's not realistic, but that's the point. Life is Strange is trying to be realistic, and it doesn't work with the dialogue. They both have two different purposes. Life is Strange isn't trying to be a satire.
No, well, here's the thing. Daria also started off as a satire, but also it eventually became its own genuine teenage drama, with the characters going through several arcs and growing up as people. So it had its cake and ate it too, which is a dumb expression, but you get the idea. It also ended up making the same mistakes sometimes that high school dramas usually make, specifically in terms of the Gary Stu character. Daria ended up giving us the most Gary Stu character ever in Brad.
Oh, Brad.
Yes, oh, Brad.
So even Daria fell for its own traps. So,
even the musical traps.
Yes. So imagine a game or a story that tries to be inspired from the likes of Daria. How would that fare in 2015? So... It doesn't do well, especially when you introduced an element of time travel in it, which is assured to ruin every story ever, because it's time travel. And it sucks.
Yeah.
If you use time travel more so as a backdrop to the actual characters, then I feel like it could potentially work. However, when you have it as such like a key point of the game or movie or whatever form of media you're producing, it leaves itself to too many plot holes, and I think that's a main issue. If you use time travel just sort of as a crutch for your characters, that's fine. But as I've said before, the writing, the few characters in Life is Strange isn't well written at all, and it does rely a little bit too much on the time travel aspect.
Yes. Life is Strange as a time travel gameplay in it, other than the ever so loathing binary choice gameplay system. The main character can apparently rewind time for a few minutes, and this actually ends up causing the major conflict of the game, which you realize it's only a major conflict right at the very end. But, yeah. So, when we talked about the idea of this anxiety, this existential anxiety and dread that comes with the atavist fear of the unknown, of the future, of what it may hold. And you are young, and you feel this loneliness, and this hopelessness, and this sense of inevitability, and life comes at you hard, like a hammer on the head, and you just need to learn how to deal with life on a daily basis, which is not easy. And sometimes you cannot get over that anxiety, that dread. Sometimes it stays with you for your entire life. And this is getting very real for me. But the point is, the way the game chooses to represent this theme, this anxiety, this existential dread, this fear of the future, essentially, which comes very snugly with the territory of being young on the cusp of adulthood, which is that moment in your life, in your growth, in your personal growth, in which you are at the most, ideally, at the most insecure, at the most doubtful about what your life will be like. The way the game represents all that, it is in the most unsubtle, in-your-face, over-the-top, and pretentious way imaginable. Which kills it!
If the game just tried telling the story and not trying to push down any themes, I think it would have been better.
Now, here's the thing. Night in the Woods covered the same themes. but it actually knows what it's doing. The writing is not over the top or in your face, it is subtle, and that sense of dread and anxiety, the scope of the themes it wants to explore, gets organically and systematically revealed as the world, everything and everyone grows at their own pace. For example, in Life is Strange, the one element that symbolizes the dread of the future is a literal apocalypse that's supposed to come and kill everything.
What's subtlety?
Subtlety.
Yeah, I know, right?
Meanwhile, there is something similar in Night in the Woods in terms of a apocalypse, so to speak. But A, it is subtle, B, it's not literal. So while Life is Strange has no idea how to write its characters or write a story for these characters or how to write their growth as characters, and everything about the themes is lazy, I should say, Night in the Woods goes out of its way to write realistic characters going through the motions of life, dealing with adulthood, dealing with the anxiety and the dread of adult life, the future and the unknown. And this supernatural, this ambiguous, unclear supernatural element in it, which, again, it is not clear if it's actually a thing that exists or is it something that's conjured up by the mind of the main character. But it's there to symbolize that exact existential dread that I've been talking about so far. And it does so in a very subtle and organic, slowly revealing way. And at that point, It actually makes an impact, an emotional impact on you, because you are familiar with the characters, the main character, her world, and everyone living in it. Because everyone in that city, in that town, has their own story and their own agency, and their stories very cleverly connect with the overarching theme in one way or the other. There's somebody having a hard time finding a stable job. There is somebody else having a spiritual religious crisis. There is a teenager who is trapped in a difficult home situation and dreams of one day making her own horror movie, for example. There are drifters, literally drifting in the immense expanse of life, swimming in the uncertainty. There is faith and religion brought into question, again, maybe as an answer to that very uncertainty, positively as an answer to that uncertainty. Couple problems, personal life problems, the idea that your own issues are not as important as the issues of others, so you feel guilty for having those issues to begin with, and you're stressed, and then you have horrifying nightmares that symbolize your own anxiety. And all of this, it is so smoothly integrated, presented, and written in Night in the Woods, and that's really what I wanted to say about it.
Yeah, I can already tell you that I probably would relate to quite a few of those traits few of those aspects of characters' lives easily.
What do you think, Shannon?
I mean, as a younger individual anxious about the future, I don't know. I mean, I was already intrigued when I was doing research, and your lovely speech about the implications of the game is certainly pushing me to play it. I most likely will play it.
I have to warn you, it gets so real. It is so real, bro. We're getting real, bro. I mean, it gets real.
I'm not afraid of getting real.
Okay, but here's the thing. This game, as I hinted before, was a bit too real for me. Not just because I related way too much with May Borowski's own internal psychological and emotional struggles in relation not just to herself but to the people around her, but also the people around her, the issues they were facing felt eerily similar to some of the issues my family has been facing as of late. Like, very, very similar. And that was borderline scary. Or I should say depressing. After beating the game, well, beating is a strong word, after completing implies that I have unlocked every single achievement. No, after...
I would usually think completing would mean you completed reading that book or something.
No, because I'm replaying it to see what events I've missed.
Oh, okay.
So there's that. But after finishing the game, there you go. After finishing the game the first time, I was a bit bummed and very much depressed for a couple of days. That really hit me hard. And like I said before, certain aspects of that anxiety and that existential dread, they might never actually leave you, and you have to deal with them on a daily basis. It's not clinical depression, necessarily. It's just that idea that nothing you do, nothing you are, really matters. It's actually perfectly normal.
Right. Yeah.
So yes, Night in the Woods. It is the realest indie game you will ever play, and I would wholeheartedly recommend it.
Yeah, I knew it would be special just from the way it looked in the trailer that you showed me some time ago, like I said before.
Also, great soundtrack.
Yeah, the soundtrack was, from what I've read, it was inspired by, person who wrote the score was inspired by a band called DIIV, I believe they said it was. I don't actually know that band too well, so I cannot say I know them, musically speaking.
Shannon, you have anything to add?
No, not really.
Nah, you're good. You're cool. You're okay.
I'm good. I am good. I'm simmering, but I'm good.
Compared to me, she's a cucumber. Cucumber.
You're acutely accumulating cucumber.
I meant to say cucumber.
You can't say it!
I'm trying to say it. She's a cucumber.
She's a cute cucumber? What?
No, cucumber.
I don't know what that means.
I'm trying to say it in the K instead of the C.
So cool.
Sound funny. So cucumber.
Don't. Just don't. So, again, Night in the Woods, you can find it on Steam. It's been developed by Infinity Fall and published by Finji. I felt it was necessary to point out the people who made this game because they deserve all of the praise.
All the credits, all the praises, all the credits.
Because let me tell you something, brother. Writing characters, especially characters who are supposed to be realistic, grounded, and relatable, is the most difficult thing to do. It's relatively easier to write outlandish characters in outlandish stories, but writing slice of life, writing characters put in relatable or sympathetic positions that might actually be familiar to you as a fruitor of that particular narrative experience, that is the hardest thing to do. And the people at Infinity Fall made it look easy. They were so good at it. Conversely, Life is Strange feels like they did not even try.